Jai Hind, Jai Bharat, and welcome to Dev Talks. This is Aadi. Nepal, our very close neighbor, potential Hindu Rashtra, is having trouble. And that trouble, as usual, is caused by none other than our friend China. So I have with me here Mr. N.C. Bipindra, who I consider quite an expert as far as Chinese influence is concerned. He's written a book on this, the footsteps of Chinese influence within India. It's a must read. How Chinese has actually, if I may use the word, sunk in so much money into India in trying to, change the narrative within our country. So let me welcome him first, sir. Namaskar. Thank you so much. Welcome to the show. And
Thank you.
looking forward for this wonderful interaction on Nepal. So tell us, sir, to begin with, what's up with Nepal? When did China begin there? Have we kind of been caught sleeping here? Is this recent or is this beyond recent history, sir?
No, actually, the Chinese operations to influence Nepal is essentially a very 2 decade old phenomena. It's not a very old thing or something. I mean, it's happened for say 70 years or something like that. It's not like that. It's just about 20-year old phenomena, and you start looking at it from the point where the Nepali Hindu kingdom was overthrown by the communists, and then the communist rule comes into place, and they convert themselves into a republic and all that. So it starts from there, and then if you see this well entrenched influence and operation, that is about say a decade or slightly more than a decade old. So that happens essentially when China realizes the potential of Nepal as a good starting point to change the narrative in the entire South Asian context, in cornering India in some manner,
Hmm.
and trying to de-link the cultural and the civilizational relationship that India has with almost the entire South Asian neighborhood. So that's when they start this kind of operation. That's about 12 odd years, if I may put it in that bracket. So that's the major time when this influence operation gained traction within Nepal, and we see it's been progressively growing in the recent years. And they are completely well entrenched in the Nepali society at this point in time, by the way, in terms of influencing the government, in terms of influencing this, the what do you call it as the social elite, and most of the influencers, they are influencing the influencers of the Nepal society. So that's the kind of scenario at this point in time. Yeah.
So, sir, there are three main figures, political figures wise, apart from the, deposed royal family. There is, Sher Bahadur Debua, or Prachanda as he's called. No, Dahal or
No.
Prachanda as he's called, Debua,
Yeah.
who's the guy in the Congress,
Hmm.
Nepali Congress. And you've got the KP Sharma Oli, which is the, what, unified or United Marxist Leninist,
United
some,
Marxist Leninists.
uh,
Yeah. The Communist
so
Party of Nepal, United Marxist Leninists. That
Marxist
is
Leninist.
OP. Yeah.
KP Sharma Oli.
KP Sharma
Huh.
Oli's
Now,
party.
in
And
this,
National Congress, I mean, Nepali Congress is essentially Sher Bahadur Debua. And
Debua,
the Communist Party of Nepal, Marxist, Maoist Center.
Maoist Center, is
That is
Prachanda.
Prachanda's party. Yeah.
Right.
That's the,
Now, these are the three main figures, sir. Now, tell us, are all these three, as far as have they had involvement in with the Chinese, say from the get go or somewhere in the middle? Because we know KP Sharma Oli has a major,
yeah, the main two communist parties, they are completely well entrenched with the Communist Party of China. Like, for example, I think in 2019, Prachanda's party signed up a one-on-one party-party relationship deal also
acha,
with them.
MOU,
Yes,
MOU was signed.
MOU was signed with them in 2019, and it's very similar to the Indian National Congress's MOU with the Communist Party of China,
And the
which
Sri
happened
Lanka
in
MOU of
2019.
2018.
Correct. So these are some of the indicators, like how well entrenched they've become, and the Prachanda's party is a willing player in this entire communist China's influence on Nepal. Whereas Nepali Congress's Sher Bahadur Dabua's party is a late player in the game. When they realize that the entire Nepali society is now under the Chinese influence, so they played along after a point of time, and that is also about half a decade old or slightly more than half a decade old period. They have got into the game of pleasing the Chinese and all that. So, I mean, if I there was this incident where one of the Nepali Congress's party member he tried to influence essentially the Nepali Congress Party by taking money uh, from the Chinese through an arms deal that was conducted sometime about 2 years back actually,
Wow.
2022. So they did an arms deal with Beijing under Devas's prime ministership, and they try to influence the party in a much greater more and obviously, I mean, they made a lot of money in it by inflating the arms deal by about 30%. If you can buy that particular equipment for say 100 rupees Indian rupees, they priced it at 130 rupees and made 30 rupees for themselves. So that's the kind of deal that they made. And I mean, as far as today Nepal is concerned, there is no party which is not under the Chinese influence. The political parties I'm talking about, I'm not talking about the commoners, I'm talking about the elite of
Hmm.
Nepali politics, Nepali think tank, Nepali academia, Nepali, you know, you name them. All these influencers who are there, they are all influenced by China at this point in time. The entire the elite class of Nepal is under their influence. Whereas the protests that you are seeing, which probably we discussed, very briefly before we came into this program, how the protests are happening in Nepal. That is the common man's, what do you call it, as reaction to the communist China's influence inside Nepal and how the entire elite is sold out to them. Okay, that is where they're wanting their kingdom back, the Hindu kingdom back. They want to re-establish the royal family in power, or at least as a figurative head of the Nepali state. So that movement is essentially a common man's movement. So there is a clear distinction between the power elite and the common man in Nepal at this point in time. That's where you see this stress in the civil society that's happening right now.
Now, I mean, Nepali Congress, you told us with the arms deal. I believe there was also some very old game where Prachanda, as one of party members, was trying to buy some MPs and all that stuff as well, sir.
Oh yeah, yeah. That also happened. I think that happened sometime in 2010. That is about 14 years, 15 years back when as I mentioned to you, that it's about uh, slightly older than a decade when the influence started. So that was one of the most earliest incidents where the communist political elite of Nepal try to link up themselves with the Communist Party of China and try to gain some kind of a moral, financial, and other support from the Communist Party of China. And this happened in 2010 when there was a leaked audio which came out where I believe the guy's name is Krishna Bahadur Mahara. I mean, I'm very bad with the name pronunciations. So I think Mahara. Let's call him as Mahara. So he was negotiating a deal with the Communist Party of China, where he wanted money them to fund the corruption in the political corruption and the purchase of 50 members of parliament to support a Prachanda government at that point in time. So yeah, he wanted to purchase members of parliament, which is called as the House of Representatives in Nepal, from
Hmm.
all across the political spectrum. They wanted about 50 MPs to be purchased so that they gain a majority in the House of Representatives. And believe me, Mahara was the second most powerful leader of the Communist Party of Nepal, Maoist Center, under Prachanda at that point in time. So, and by the way, this Mahara is a huge, big criminal mind, and he was also caught up in a rape case allegation that was leveled against him as recently as 2019. So
Oh,
yeah, so he's also big criminal from that point of view, in the sense that he was caught up in a rape allegation in 2019. So that is the background. This incident did happen, as you rightly pointed out. There was an effort by the Communist Party of Nepal, Maoist Center, led by Prachanda, to buy MPs from other parties so that they can cobble up a majority in the House of Representatives.
I mean, no wonder the people want the monarchy back.
No, I mean, see, all these kind of political maneuverings that the communist China does in Nepal is going to alienate them with the commoner much more. And I mean, as I rightly mentioned to you earlier, this voice against the communist rule in Nepal is going to increase. The pitch is going to increase to high decibels very soon, and I believe there is going to be a social uprising against the communists for the kind of hand and glove deals that they're doing with the Communist Party of China.
Hmm.
So this is likely to happen. And this is there are indications of the sort, but this is too early at this point in time, because this voice in favor of the Hindu kingdom or the royal family of Nepal had risen even about 5 years back, if you remember, recall that episode. But that was put down by the communists at that
Pretty
point in
hard.
time. Yeah, pretty hard. So we'll have to wait and watch. But I believe the second uprising that has happened against the communist rule or the communist dominance in Nepal is likely to be, festered, if I may put it that way, by the commoners themselves in the days to come.
Mm. So, but when we look at the political system there, like, I mean, no structure. KP Sharma Oli was there, and if I just recall, uh, I think 2020, 2021, he was kind of pushed out. Then there was this election, and then Prachanda came back, and then Prachanda did a deal with KP Sharma Oli to form
Yeah,
the government. Then that deal broke apart. He did the deal with Nepali Congress to form the government, and now he's
yeah.
broken that and done the deal back again with KP Sharma Oli and this thing. So when you look
Correct.
at this political play, do you see the Chinese hand in it, or it's just for a matter of convenience and you know, s- like India was in the 1990s, kursi pakad ke rakho, baki sab.
No, actually, see, we have a parallel in India of this Palturam thing that Prachanda is doing at this point in time, which specifically to Bihar, I'm mentioning it. I won't
Yeah,
name the political leader. So this Palturam thing has been going on. I mean, this is
yeah.
the third time that Prachanda is, taking has taken over as the Prime Minister of Nepal, and I think he won his vote of confidence just yesterday by bagging about 157
Hmm.
votes in a house of about 300 in the House of Representatives. So essentially, this is the third time, and he keeps doing that very frequently. And I believe it is essentially communist China is making, for the simple reason that if you look at who is the most powerful person in Nepal today, I would say the Chinese ambassador to Nepal is the most powerful person in Nepal today. So any political leader who is inconvenient to the Communist Party of China, uh, they will be eased out. So the Nepali Congress, I believe, is now becoming a little bit of a pain in the wrong place for China, and because of
Hmm.
which
Hmm.
probably they are not allowing Prachanda the free hand to completely enmesh Nepal right into the hands of communist China. So that is where the problem lies, and obviously they have political reasons for doing so in the Nepali Congress, because of the increasing voices of discontent against the communist parties in Nepal, and also because of what China is doing along the borders, because the Chinese have not been able to bring together the kind of economic benefits that they promised Nepal when the BRI deal was signed, say in 2016. So And the Communist Party of China's entrenchment in the Nepali economy is such that most of the benefits today are going to Chinese companies and not to the locals. And the
Hmm.
entrenchment is such that even to the street vendor level of influence in the economy is being controlled by the Chinese today. So they don't. I mean, for example, I'll give you this tourism example where you know one of the major economic factor that runs the Nepali economy is tourism. So Mount Everest, I mean, you name them. There are plenty of reasons why tourism is one of the most important economic activity in Nepal. It's a beautiful landscape. If you have visited, you would know it's such a beautiful place that anybody across the world would want to visit that place anytime today. So, but what has happened is China is increasingly becoming the number one tourist center to Nepal today. But what has happened is the Chinese tourists, they don't book themselves into a Nepali hotel or a Nepali guest house or something like that. They go and book themselves with. There are more than right in Kathmandu. There are more than about 50 odd Chinese run hotels and guest houses and stuff like that. And they book themselves in those Chinese controlled hotels so that the tourism benefit actually goes back to China. It doesn't percolate down to the lowest common man level in Nepal. So that is also, I mean, this is one example I'm giving you where there is a problem with this arrangement, economic arrangement that Nepal has with China. So similarly, even to the street vendor level control is today with the Chinese. The economy of Nepal, which is about $4 billion at this point in time, is actually putting the Nepali people are paying money so that the money can go to China. So that is the kind of situation. But these are all factors which are pushing this anti-communist sentiment, anti-China sentiment within Nepal today.
That's interesting because one of the biggest things that we see in any of this sort of an arrangement is the factor that the Chinese are basically rule the roost.
Yeah.
Now, politically speaking, sir, Nepali Congress, to my mind, has the majority in the house, but they've not really stepped into the shoes. They've
No,
got the
Nepal
highest
is
number of seats.
highest number of
They've
seats.
got,
They have
huh,
about 89 in a house of about 275 or something. So
yeah,
they are
yeah,
the
yeah.
largest grouping in the House of Representatives, followed by Oli's KP Sharma Oli's party, which is the Nepal Communist Party of Nepal, United Marxist Leninists, and the third largest is Prachanda's party
Mm. Now,
with
I
about
mean,
32 seats. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm.
The I mean, it's so amazing that you actually look at this, and I don't know. I'll just want to actually take the viewers, mind back to the lady. I forget her name, the Chinese ambassador. Literally
Yeah.
run KP Sharma only on her fingers.
Yeah. Yeah. I
That was a
mean,
very
yeah. I think you're talking about who Anki.
ha.
Hmm. Anki, Anchi, whatever, however it is pronounced. Yeah. Who? Let us call as her who.
Yeah. So she basically pushed this guy to uh, that Limpi Adura, Kalapani, and uh, the third pass,
The
Lipu
ma-
Lake, the
the
pass.
map controversy
The
that
map
you're talking
controversy
about
that
recently.
that she did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, one thing that we see as far as Prachanda is concerned is
Hmm.
that when he's come in this time, he's taken a very Hindu outlook, right?
Hmm.
He came for the Ram Mandir, this thing. He was very happy to send the clothes and the jal and the this and that towards the Ram Mandir cause. And we saw him kind of trying to play the Hindu card. What is he trying to do there, sir? Is he
Yeah. I
trying to
mean,
kind of move away himself away from China and say, "Nahi, nahi, nahi, I am more."
no. Adi, let me clarify here that he can never get out of the communist China's hand. Let us be
Mm,
very clear about it. He will be eliminated if he tries to do that. Okay, and there are people waiting in the wings within his party and in the communist movement in Nepal who would be very happy to get rid of him because he is the most popular face of the communist
Hmm.
movement itself. Okay, so there are a lot of people who want to step into his shoes today, even within the Communist Party. So what you see is that he is actually doing this essentially to control or to put down the Hindu discontent that is going on within Nepal at this point in time, which we have
Hmm.
already discussed. The Hindu kingdom, they want the royal, family to be back in power, or at least as a figurative head of the state. All this movement is essentially a Hindu movement in Nepal, and Hinduness is part and parcel of Nepal's culture. So uh, he is only trying to placate that anti-communist, pro-Hindu sentiment that exists today, even within Nepal. So you actually in the opening remarks mentioned called it as the Hindu Rashtra. At some point of time, it was the only Hindu Rashtra in the world. If you look at Nepal before the royals were overthrown, it was the only nation which was a Hindu Rashtra, declared Hindu Rashtra in the world. Hinduism was the state religion of Nepal. Let us not forget that. I mean, and that is a civilizational memory that the people have. So that civilizational memory is never going to go away. So let us be very clear about it. So that what Prachanda is doing right now by visiting the Ram temple or sending, prasad or whatever he is trying to do in terms of his Hinduness and the Hindu identity is essentially to cater to the political sentiments on the ground today. This protest itself is a manifestation. I mean, if people are watching what is happening in Nepal at this point in time, the protest itself is a manifestation of that Hinduness of Nepal. Okay, so nobody can wish it away. People have tried, missionaries have tried it, everybody have tried it in Nepal, and they have not been able to overcome the Hinduness or Hindu character of this nation itself. Just as what happened with India, millenniums of attacks, and yet people have not been able to change the character of India or Nepal or essentially the entire South Asian nation, except for some pockets like say Pakistan, Bangladesh, which is again a later creation, or Maldives or whichever. So if you look even in Sri Lanka for that matter, there is a very what do you call it as Indianness inherent in Sri Lanka. So none of these nations can change their character that easily because it's not easy for anybody to uproot the Hinduness of these nations at any point in time. See, I mean, if I say all these people will say that I'm, whatever they may call me names for saying all this, but this is the fact actually. This is the essential character and fact of these nations. So we can't, overlook these factors when we talk about these nations. So it might have become a communist dominant country today. Nepal might have become that, but essentially it is a Hindu nation, right? So you cannot overlook that fact, and it can't be I mean, what do you call it as uprooted also, because of which I believe Prachanda is playing that Hindu card, as they call it in Indian politics and everywhere. Like just like what Arvind Kejriwal is trying to do now and then, or the temple hopping that Rahul Gandhi tries to do to establish his own Hindu identity, Janudari identity, essentially. So Prachanda is doing the same game. He's playing the same game.
In- Interesting. So finally, I wanted to ask you, this looks like a locked scenario till the time this whole political structure doesn't move. And as a matter of fact, it was quite shocking when this government came across, and I also saw that our diplomats kind of rushed to meet the so-called new setup, and a statement came out that we will work the same way with the new setup and everything like that.
Yeah,
Uh, a very bland sort of a statement, didn't really mention much about it. Uh, there is that MOU which comes into picture, and that MOU kind of, it's not legally binding, but it's financially, and I don't know which other binding. Uh, to that aspect with China. So how do you think, is the Nepali Congress the answer, or do you think that this whole political system needs to kind of move aside for a new system to come up, and that's when some sort of a game can be played by India within Nepal?
Right. At this point in time, I mean, the statement that came out of the MA and all that is essentially diplomaties. Okay. So, but the thing is, I mean, if I can put it very bluntly, I think India lost its game in Nepal a long time back. Okay.
Long time back, sir. Mm.
A long time back. So it's going to be very difficult unless there is an upheaval in the political setup itself in Nepal, where the people overthrow the existing leadership. I mean, Nepal Congress is okay. Nepal Congress is like a chameleon which keeps changing its color as per the political winds where it is blowing. So, Nepal Congress is not a big trouble at all for us. We still have a game or a hand in the dice as far as Nepal Congress is concerned. But the communist nature of the polity of Nepal essentially needs to change. And for that to happen, either Nepali Congress steps up to it and declares itself more openly as a pro people, pro Hindu political party and tries to distance itself from communist China and the communist polity essentially and provides leadership to this mass uprising that is likely to happen in
That's a
China because
big opportunity. Hmm.
it's a big opportunity. Essentially, what has happened is there is no leadership on the ground in terms of a political. When I say of leadership, I'm not talking about a political leadership, not a social leadership. There may be some social leadership which is actually triggering or essentially acting as a catalyst for the kind of protests that we have seen inside Nepal now. But there is essentially no political figure or a political leadership that is owning up these protests at this point in time and emerging as the next alternative to the communist polity that is so dominant in Nepal at this point in time. So if when as and when that leadership emerges, I'm certain that this upheaval will happen, where the communists will have to hide themselves or run away or leave the country or whatever happens because it's going to be very brutal and there will be a lot of bloodshed when that happens. So um, you need one political catalyst for that to happen, and one of the most important elements of a political catalyst will be a political leadership which owns up this movement for a change inside Nepal. Okay, when that happens, communist China won't be able to do anything. The communist parties won't be able to do anything, and it will be a match point for India once again.
Yeah, I mean, you saw that as a mass uprising, and I would say a popular uprising within Sri Lanka, and that was very interesting. I presume a similar sort of a situation would take place in Nepal, although I don't see that happening in Maldives because it's being, so split apart, small pieces of islands. So you might have a uprising in one island, may not have in the other. The
Yeah,
resonance might
there is a
not be there and stuff like
geographical difficulty there in
that.
Maldives.
Yeah,
But let me just point out, since you mentioned Sri Lanka and Maldives in the same breath as Nepal at this point in time, let me just mention one interesting commonality among these three nations in South Asia at this point in time. The uprising that happened in Sri Lanka was essentially a uprising against the political leadership, which was turning its back on India and looking towards China for all its economic ailments, and ultimately collapsed at some point in time. The economy collapsed there. A similar situation is emerging in Maldives today,
yeah.
and similar situation is emerging in Nepal also today. Anybody, I mean, I may sound a little, it might sound very simplistic, but the point is there is an important factor in it. The factor is if Nepal, I mean, what has happened with Sri Lanka and Maldives of aligning themselves with China, we have seen, and Nepal has also aligned with China. And anybody who aligns with China will face a similar fate
Oh
of
yeah,
a,
yeah,
of
yeah.
a, of a political, social, and economic uprising within their country.
Absolutely, absolutely, and there is no doubt. And as long as there is no loss of life and this and that, I think I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, loss of life is, I mean, as I mentioned just a few minutes back, whenever there is a political upheaval that happens in Nepal, there will be a lot of bloodshed.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I can
That,
foresee that.
of course, because of the
Like,
Gurkhas and this and that,
because
it
of
becomes
Gorkhas,
heated.
because of the Maoist background of the communist parties, so there will be a
It
war.
gets quite
There will be a
heated up.
civil war.
Huh?
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, this is a very interesting. These things are, I think, is something that we need to keep a track of, and because we see similar, signs coming up of this India Out campaign, which is being run through Bangladesh as well. We see similar tactics being used there.
yeah,
So that's something that we could, probably discuss sometime later. But
yeah,
uh,
certainly.
this battle within the Indian neighborhood will, continue until and unless there is a proper solution to it and a proper kind of lined response. Even Sri Lanka, yeah, right now it's kind of there with you, but I think we need to tie a few knots to ensure the SJP doesn't come into power, which is basically recollecting all the Rajapaksa's people again, and
Yeah,
the other one NPP, who's which is the main opposition, who's kind of pro Vikramasinghe,
yeah,
is right now. I think some time ago was in Delhi for consultations and stuff like that. So I guess open political consultations would be quite a good idea to mitigate these kind of issues that come towards us. Sir. Thank you
yeah.
so much, sir. It's
So
always a pleasure, sir. Please.
yeah, there is just one point since you
Yeah, yeah,
mentioned these things about. See, there is a lot of work that needs to be done by the Indian government in this regard
true.
of keeping your neighbors on your side. Okay,
Hmm.
so that being the big brother in the region, there is also a lot of magnanimity that needs to be shown. One,
Hmm.
I mean, I'm not saying that there is no magnanimity being shown. We have done it during the COVID period by sending, the
There it has to be constant.
yeah, it has to be constant, and probably we need to make these nations understand how China is going to be a uh, albatross around the neck at some point, if not today. That is one. Number two is the neighborhood first policy of this government. See, I remember before Mr. Narendra Modi became the Prime Minister of India in 2014, sometime in 2013 when this campaign was, heavily uh, focusing on a change in the regime. There was a very Manohar Tyagaraj is a very good friend of mine. Is a geopolitical analyst, and he was consulting for one British arms company based in India at that point in time.
Hmm.
So I had met him, one of the evenings, and we were having a chat. And he asked me, "What do you think this new government of if the Narendra Modi government comes to power, what should they do? What should be their focus?" So, I mean, I told at that point in time neighborhood first. Probably I am the one who coined it. Actually, if Manohar will bail me out on this, I said neighborhood first should be the focus of India. Leave out all other things. Neighborhood first. You focus and strengthen your neighborhood relationships. Become the most important nation in this region. I mean, you are already a regional power, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
But you should strengthen your position as a regional power by uh, doing a lot of things for the region. Okay, Pakistan has been a big pain at some point in time. We have been able to successfully neutralize it in the last at least 5 6 years now. We have been since 2019 at least, early 2019 at least. We have neutralized Pakistan as a non-entity in the region. We have uh, you know deaffinated from them successfully. Similarly, there should be a situation, or we should work towards a situation where all these nations in South Asia, the India Out campaign and all that is going on, we should be able to convince them that India is the only nation which has a civilizational link with you, and we are going to be brothers and sisters for eternity, and there is no need for you to look for a out of area power to help you out on all your needs. Essentially, we should try to integrate them socially, economically, people to people relationship, military relationship. We should completely, make them part of, as one part. I won't say part of us, Indians, or rather, we should make this South Asian region into one single entity sort of a arrangement. Whether it will happen at a regional government level, or it will happen at a regional forum level, or whatever. SARC, we are not too interested anymore because of Pakistani presence in SARC. BIMSTEC, is there a possibility to expand BIMSTEC, which is only looking at the Bay of Bengal and its neighborhood? Can we extend it to Arabian Seaside, or do we do a Indian Ocean region sort of a larger thing? Whatever. I mean, it's essentially a point that I'm putting up for thrashing out an idea out of it, essentially. So some arrangement needs to be made where all these uh, neighbors of India feel comfortable, feel safe, feel secure, feel you know to be part of this larger one, which is uh, the larger South Asian region, as you will put it. Probably at one point of time, we were all civilizationally one and the same, and the people on the Hindu ideological side, they call it as Akhanda Bharat and whatnot. So I don't know. I mean, it's just an idea that I'm putting up. So should we float something of the sort where all of them come together and realize their civilizational connectedness or oneness, and work towards collective progress and development? I think that's an idea that the government needs to work on.
Uh, Let me just, ask you another one. 5 days back, there was a news that came out. Couple of Chinese people had, kind of taken Nepali passports and infiltrated into India. And as a matter of
Yeah,
fact, they were caught from Noida, and they
yeah.
were basically had some 513 SIM cards, and they were doing all sorts of, social media activity there. What do you say to this thing? This was very interesting, actually. Something really new.
No, it is not new, Adi. Let me, put it in the perspective. This has been going on for at least a decade now. Okay,
Hmm.
so this thing came out in a major, as in major news item today. So we are all aware of such a thing happening. But this is not new. I mean, let me take you back to say maybe a couple of years back. There was one guy who was found in Manipur. I think maybe 1 year back or so. One Chinese guy was caught in Manipur. If you look at it, okay, he came into India through Nepal.
Hmm.
Okay, so this thing has been going on for quite a while now, because it is an open border, so anybody can cross over, quite easily. So somewhere or the other, I think this phenomena will increase in the coming days. And mind you, we have a very good ecosystem in India. I mean, I can tell you, somebody who is already in the know of things of what is happening in this regard told me that there are about 200 odd Chinese companies working just in the NCR Delhi, National Capital Region of Delhi, which includes Ghaziabad, Noida, Gurgaon, and Faridabad, including Delhi. So this is the National Capital Region, Delhi. In this region, there are about 200 Chinese companies which are operating today. And even if there are four or five Chinese nationals working for these companies in India today, so 200 into 5, you have about 1,000 people, 1,000 Chinese working here. It's a major big ecosystem that is working here. Okay, so if a Chinese national comes into India through Nepal with a Nepali passport or whatever passport, or without a passport, without a visa, whatever you call it, there is this ecosystem that is going to sustain him or her for a much larger period. Okay, it's a major uh, national security threat,
True.
as it were. So I mean, it's a serious issue actually. So probably some sort of a mechanism needs to be put in place where we are able to identify these people, or maybe there is a regular quarterly, what do you call it as, you do a census of how many Chinese nationals are working in India, where is their money going, who are they paying, what is the money they are getting here in India. I mean, it's a big ecosystem, right? So when a Chinese national comes to work in India, what essentially happens is that, I mean, this is part of the influence operation that happens in India today. If a Chinese national comes in, he gets money in the Chinese currency in their country, and he also gets money in the Indian currency in India. And that money, the Indian currency, is not given to the Chinese national. He just signs the pay slip or a voucher, but that money is pooled at commonly at some place, and it is distributed among all the Chinese influencers who are of Indian origin, Indian nationals working in India, working against this country as the fifth column. Okay, so it's a huge big ecosystem that exists today. Okay, so it's not a small. I mean, as you rightly pointed, it's a big news, but it's not a small security issue. It's a major security issue actually.
Interesting. It's quite this whole thing, as China kind of declines, and that's something that we discuss quite often on the channel, is going to get more and more dangerous. But sir, thanks so much for this very wonderful, realistic output on Nepal. It's always a pleasure talking to you, and we shall catch you back when we hear another Chinese influence article coming out from you. And
Yeah.
most likely, I would, may I, if take the liberty to recommend Bangladesh, so that we can actually
Of
figure
course,
out
I
who's
mean
running.
Bangladesh we can discuss any day you want.
Fair enough. So let's plan that out, and we'll take it forward. Till then, sir, Jai Hind, Jai
Absolutely.
Bharat.
It's a pleasure being on your channel, Adi. You bring out very incisive programs on various issues of national security interest, of India's security, India's place in the global order, and all that. So I wish you all the best, and I thank all your viewers for giving such a large patronage to your channel. And I recommend all of them to look at the QR code that exists right at the top of the channel, and please do go and enable Adi to do more work through that
Thank you.
QR code. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.